This is the Ordinary Business Podcast for business owners who want honest conversations, a lean business, and an extraordinary life on their own terms.
Rachel, what is your favorite way to decompress?
So something that's fun is just dancing, just putting on some music and kind of like working that energy out. That's been a fun way to decompress.
I love a dance party. I actually had one, what was it? I don't know. It was like last week at some point. I was having a very stressful day and I was like dancing as I worked. It's like, it's gonna be okay. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. You got that new Taylor Swift album. So
yes,
put it
that's
on and
actually
dance.
what I was dancing to. I was like, it's okay. I can do it. I can do it. So, we're going to talk about interoception and kind of how you've integrated this into your business and your life. But before we dive into that, can you introduce yourself and tell us about what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Rachel Richards. I am a photographer and a filmmaker based in Phoenix, Arizona, and I do two types of photography and videography. I do family photography and videography, and I also do black and white botanical fine art print.
I know a lot of photographers who have these like two separate kind of brands, and as a creative, I totally get that. It's easy to like love two completely unrelated things. Okay, so let's start with walking through maybe like a breaking point that you had that changed how you approach, basically everything, kind of how you approach business. Can you walk us through what was happening, maybe like what your days or your schedule was like, and what made you realize, okay, like something's got to change?
Yeah, so I'm no stranger to mental breakdowns. I've had a few, but the one that really made a big difference for me and got me started on that trajectory of working with interoception was in 2023. I had been laid off from a director of operations job in April of that year. And when that happened, I actually wasn't too upset about it because I had this interest in photography. And I was like, oh, lucky me, I guess I'll be able to spend all of my time working on my photography business now. And so what I did was I spent the next several months going full steam working on my photography business, which at the time it was just the family photography business. And I was putting in a lot of hours. That was kind of the ethos that I carried into entrepreneurship with me, was just work hard and, good things will happen. And so I did. I worked really hard for several months. And there came a point where I was starting to get a sense of panic. I think it was like from checking my bank account and from realizing like nobody was calling yet. And things just weren't happening in the way that I had hoped or expected them to after putting in all of this effort. And so I also, at the same time, started to apply for jobs. In my panic, I started to apply for hundreds and hundreds of jobs. And just like the job market is terrible today, it was also equally terrible in 2023. And I think there came a point, probably September, October of that year, after just, putting in so many hours. My day would look like I would wake up, I would get on my computer, I would fill out dozens of applications before my kids would wake up. And then I would get myself ready in a hurry. I would get my kids ready. I would drop them off. I'd come right back. I'd get right back on the computer. I'd dive right back in. I'd work until it was time to pick them up. I would rush to go get them. I would rush to come home. I would get back on the computer. I'd work and do more applications until bedtime at 10, at 11. And I would be, exhausted after weeks of doing that, right? And so I think there came a point where I was starting to, feel the burnout. I was starting to get really lethargic. I couldn't even concentrate on what it is that I was trying to work on. I actually started having panic attacks for the first time, I think, in my entire life, because the panic was setting in, like nothing was happening in either department, right? Either my photography work or the job search, nothing was happening. And I actually started to, my thoughts were getting really dark. I was getting really depressed, and I ended up having to seek mental health care, like in an emergency sort of way. And so that for me, it was a realization that I couldn't just work my way out of it. I couldn't work my way into an opportunity. And so I had to sit with that discomfort. And I had to, for the first time ever, learn how to manage that discomfort and all the things that come with it. And so that's when the layers started peeling back.
Mm. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your story, because I know there are so many people who have or are currently experiencing this same type of like panic and stress. And I know there are people who have started applying for part-time jobs or have picked up part-time jobs and any of that. So hopefully this episode will also be a comfort to them and help them in their journey. So I wanted to say thank you for sharing. Now, and I know also that the whole like, oh, you just work harder and just try more is so frustrating. 2024, I had a very scary business season as well. And it was like, okay, I've been doing this. At that point, it was 13 years. And it was like, okay, I could try this again. I could try this. And nothing was working. And for me, I did make a big change in my niche, but also I saw things change once the election was over. And so sometimes there are things out in the world that affect our businesses. We can try all the ads and all the strategies and show up, but one, there are bigger things working against us, and two, that's just making us burn out and hurting our mental health. And so as much as I think some business coaches would like to just tell us to work harder and keep showing up, it's not always going to work. So.
I was definitely showing up at the expense of my own personal health and well-being. Mm-hmm. And now I have learned to flip that so that my own personal health and well-being comes first, absolutely, without a doubt. And that enables me to show up regularly.
Yes. So. And that is what we need to focus on as business owners. Like, we have to stop doing it at the expense of ourselves. Now, when you and I were talking, you were telling me about interoception, learning to listen to your body, kind of changing how you work. Can you describe a moment, like when this happened? Like, what did your body tell you? What did it feel like? And how did you respond?
So, yeah, nowadays, interoception, which for me is that bodily sensation, that body communication between brain and body, right? I'm not just walking around thinking that my brain is the CEO and like it doesn't need any input from anybody or anything else. No, I'm like very receptive now to what cues I am getting from my body up. And so that to me comes out a lot when I'm considering more strategic planning. So for example, trying to figure out what offers I want to put together, what services I want to provide, what products I want to include. Thinking about, for example, being on the phone with a prospective client and like, are we going to be a good fit? Like those are those kinds of things where as an entrepreneur, especially, we don't always have a sounding board. I don't have a team that I can go and ask, hey, what's your opinion on this? Mm-hmm. And so to be able to have that sounding board coming from within is really helpful because I get all of the information that I need based on how safe I feel in my body or how not safe I feel in my body in a particular moment. So as an example, I can be on a phone with a prospective client who, on paper, it's like, oh, this would be an amazing payday. This would be such a cool thing to add to my portfolio. And, it could check all of the boxes on paper. But if I don't feel right in my body when I'm considering that, I'm not going to do it. It doesn't matter how right on paper it seems. And so it's a way that I can do that gut check. I know we talk a lot about like, oh, that's a red flag. But what interoception, working on interoception has helped me with is like, it is a lot clearer and it is a lot more undeniable. And now I'm like, I feel connected with those gut responses and I trust them completely.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I've not done anything with interoception, but as you were giving your example of like being on a call and like on paper, they sound so great, but then you're like, something. I have had that feeling numerous times. And like I always just attributed it to like intuition, gut feeling, I don't know, just whatever. So now this makes me want to look even more into interoception because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I feel like I'm already kind of experiencing it because I will literally feel like my body tense up.
Yeah.
And I do
Yeah.
start to feel like maybe not a panic, but it's like stress or tension or something.
Yeah.
And the call is going perfectly fine. It's not like, they're mean or anything like that. But yeah, it just is very interesting that I'm like, oh, I'm already experiencing this. So I should probably look more into it.
Yeah, you're totally right. There is biological, physiological things that happen that if you are not tuned in, if you're not paying attention, if you have been in brain as the CEO mode, you can just gloss right over that fact that that's happening and you can
Mm-hmm.
accept that job. And then, potentially maybe that wasn't the best fit and you're going to find out later in the process, maybe too late. But the fact that you're tuned in and you can at least sense it, like you've already got it. So just continue on with that journey and hone it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious what else like your day to day kind of
Yeah.
looks like. Do you have any, I don't know, rituals? Do you take certain breaks? Just, I'm curious how you kind of like stay in tune with your body.
Yeah, absolutely. So my mornings, and this is a routine that I've been trying to work on for, gosh, like a couple of years now. My mornings are really a time where I notice if I don't do this morning routine, I wake up and it's like my brain goes on, auto mode, autopilot. And it just starts kind of like taking over the day, assumes that CEO role, and I feel very out of touch with myself for the rest of the day because it just jumps right into what do I need to do? And it starts working on it. But if I start my day a little bit slower and a little bit more intentionally, so things that I do, for example, I know this isn't going to work for everybody and that's okay. But for me, it's journaling so I can get, my thoughts, my subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stream of consciousness down on paper. I do some journaling. I do some like a really short breathwork meditation combo. I do some gratitude practice. I do some reading. I feel like just that slower start to the morning helps make sure my body gets a say. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so then as things approach, like on my calendar, I'm like, I'm just more calm. I just notice more calmness. Oh, another thing that I do that I think is different from a lot of entrepreneurs, and it's a way of respecting my bodily communication, is I don't really time block. I used to be a serial time blocker, but not anymore. My calendar is pretty wide open, which I know that's maybe not the, standard advice for entrepreneurs if you're trying to be super productive. But the way that I do it is I know the immediate things that I need to work on. And I sort of treat it as like a menu. And then I will, before I go and work on something, I'll check in with my body and see like, how am I feeling? Am I in a mode that is super focused? Am I feeling super focused and I can do deep work right now? Am I feeling a little tired and a little discombobulated? And so, like, what is something that I can pick from the things that I need to do that matches my energy, my capacity, like how I'm feeling right now? And I work in that way. And for me, that has actually helped me be more productive because instead of trying to make, what do they call it? A square peg fit in a round hole, like, which to me, that's how time blocking felt is like, oh, now I have to do this thing, but I have no energy to do that thing. And I'm like, I can't do it. And it's a struggle. Now it's a lot easier to start crossing things off my list because I'm doing it based on honoring my body.
Yes. Well, for the record, I also do not time block. So
You're the only person I have met who is an entrepreneur who doesn't time block.
I have never time blocked ever. Like the most that I will do is like, okay, I don't know, this presentation is due. I have to work on it Tuesday afternoon or something like that. But that is the most that I will do. I actually did an episode about how I don't use Notion or Asana or anything like that and kind of explained how I know what to do each day. Mine is not based around energy, but as you were talking, I was like, I mean, mine's not based on energy, and I don't really do that yet. I might after I start looking into this more. But I'm also like this morning, I was like, I just don't feel like I sat at my kitchen table for like half an hour and I was like, I don't feel like going to work. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to work from the couch. And I did the same work I would have done if I'd come into my office, but it was just kind of not forcing myself to go to the office because, I mean, it didn't really matter. I could do the same work either place, but it was just kind of like paying attention to my energy and, what I needed to do for myself. So yeah, it's not the only one.
You're already doing it. That's the thing. That's what you just said. You're already doing it. The thing is, I think it's a reframe between feeling like, oh, I'm procrastinating and like beating yourself up about it versus saying, no, you know what? Like, I am not in the mental state yet to do my best work. And so instead of trying to force it to happen and doing subpar work, I am going to honor what my body is telling me and I am going to take a little break. I'm going to like go outside for a walk. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to dance to Taylor Swift and then I'm going to reassess and I'm going to see how I feel afterwards. So it's more about a reframe. I think a lot of us are already kind of low-key paying attention to our body, but I think it's like, how are we processing that mentally? That's really the difference.
Yes, that's a good thing to note. And I think for some people, I know for me, this on the surface sounds like maybe a little like woo-woo, as people would say. But then as we've been talking, I'm like, oh, I already do. Oh, like, because I do not consider myself woo-woo at all. Like, I'm complete opposite. But I'm like, oh, I'm basically already doing this. So I'm curious though, how, like you were talking about boundaries and like, okay, what do I have energy for and time for and all that? How do you handle that with clients and deadlines? Like, how do you communicate that? Is it something on your website? Because, if you're like, oh, I don't know if you're ever like, I'm not going to work at all today or just not this morning, but how giving yourself that flexibility, then what about client, like deadlines?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have had to make slowness more of a priority because I have noticed for myself, it is a lot harder, right, to honor your body and to even pay attention to your body when you're trying to go 100 miles per hour. And so I've really had to scale back, not necessarily my ambition, but like the pace at which I am pursuing my ambition. And so now that I have taken, like, now that slowness is more of a priority in my day to day, I have made sure that that comes across in all of my marketing and all of my copy. Not saying like, oh, I'm the slowest photographer that you're ever going to work with. Not like that. I'm just like, it's the way that I'm talking to people. It's built into my process that like, it's a value of mine that I'm going to get to know you on a deeper level. And that alone should tell you that my pace is different. I'm not going to turn this around to you in 2 days. Like that, if that's your priority from a client perspective, you need another photographer because that's not what I'm going to do. So yeah, I reinforce this through my messaging, through my offers. Again, do they feel good in my body? Knowing that knowing slowness is a priority for me. Do my offers feel good? Do my timelines feel good? And then communicating that to the client. And yes, I would love to also address the woo skeptic because I am the same way. I am an evidence-based girly. I come from working in healthcare and have a master of public health. So I'm definitely not super woo. But there is actual science behind this, as we are discovering. And we were talking before we hit record about a new book by a science journalist on this as an emerging science. So yes, I know it like seems wooey when you're talking about energy and bodily communication, but it's not wooey. Like there is science.
Do you know the name of the book off the top of your head?
Yes, it's called Inner Sense.
Okay, cool. I will link that in the show notes for y'all if you want to go check it out. I feel like, I know we often talk as entrepreneurs about communicating with our clients and messaging. And I feel like even a value and a way of living our life and our business like this and the slowness can also be incorporated into your messaging. I'm not even a copywriter, but like I can already kind of imagine ways to convey this in your messaging without it being like, I'm the slowest photographer ever. And just, conveying that in your values, but then also literally like in your client communication and when you're talking to people, I feel like that would be really easy to bring up.
Absolutely. And I mean, you think about who I am working with. I am working with parents of young kids, like in my family photography business. Who could benefit the most from taking a deep breath and from going slower? And so I don't want to contribute to the chaos that's going on in their lives. I want to serve as a reminder to them that they can take a breath and that they can take a pause and enjoy some slowness too, where they can find it. And so it's just like, it's all about reframing. It's not that I am not underserving anybody or anything like that. It's like, how can I actually use my values to serve you? And I like to view it in that way.
Yes, I love that. Okay, last question. Now that you've built this slower, more in tune with your body business, is there anything you still like struggle with or any old habits that you kind of find yourself falling into?
Oh, totally. So there are mornings, like this morning was one that I didn't do my morning routine. And, that does throw me off temporarily, but I kind of view it as, instead of beating myself up about it, I'm like, oh, I guess my body just needed more rest. I'm like, we'll try it again tomorrow. So, I mean, I still have that dance that I am doing. But I will say probably the biggest struggle right now is, okay, I feel way in tune with my body and I get all of this communication and feedback. But now it's more of okay, is that a genuine intuitive message that I should honor, or is it potentially self-sabotage? So for example, there was a period about a month ago where I really wasn't working much at all. You know what I mean? I was like in rest and digest and like for weeks. And I'm like, at a certain point, I was like, okay, this is really relaxing, but also I need to work. And I think I might be self-sabotaging myself a bit. And I need to pay closer attention to that. So I need to have more of an awareness of the ways that I tend to want to self-sabotage. And I just need to ask myself a question before acting on this communication that I am getting from my body. I need to ask myself a question, like, which one is it? So that's what I'm doing lately, and it seems to be helping, but that's going to be an ongoing challenge because self-sabotage is never going to go away.
Right. Yeah, I can see that happening. But I'm glad that you just kind of ask yourself that and check in again. Like, are we sure? Are we really sure? So, well, this has been so good. Thank you so much for sharing your insight in the practice of this. Where can we connect with you online?
Yeah, so for my family photography and videography, I'm at rachelrichardsphotofilm.com, and you can find my black and white botanical fine art prints at rachelrichardsfineart.com.
Awesome. I will link that in the show notes for y'all, but thank you again for being here.
Thank you.